Hello and welcome into the 32nd season of High School Football Game of the Week. We'll start with the schedule reveal show today. We were going to go outside, but Steve, it is a blistering almost 100 degrees outside, so we kept it inside here. So we're here for the schedule reveal show for the 32nd season here, the 2018 season of high school football. I'm your host, Dylan Goday. Joined alongside me is Stephen Ruffing. Steve, nice to have you back here on campus.
It's great to be back. You know, enjoying a nice summer. Beautiful weather. Like I said, a little too hot for all of our equipment, so we're back in here. It's good to be back, and we did this last year for the first time, around the same time actually.
Yep.
And it's just good to be back. I'm excited. It's going to be a nice year of high school football.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's one of our best schedules in recent memory. So speaking of that schedule, let's jump right into it now with Week 0. We'll be back at Brownsville like last season, but this time their opponent is Bentworth. And Steve, this is going to be a Brownsville-Bentworth game. A couple of teams that didn't have the best of seasons last year, but hopes to boost that this season. Yeah,
you know, Brownsville, the baseball team just won the Whippeals. Maybe they're going to try to follow in their footsteps. You know, they got the new coach last year. You know, they struggled a little bit, but there was some positives that you can take away from their season. So if you kind of bring that mentality, kind of the same mentality you had towards the end of the year, you bring that in, I could see maybe getting a couple wins, but Bentworth, you know, it's a pretty unpredictable team. They can go one of two ways, you know.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've had Bentworth. We mentioned we had Brownsville last season. Last time Bentworth was on CUTV, it was actually scheduled to be in 2016, but due to some complications there, rainy, foggy night at Bentworth, had to reschedule that game. But Bentworth coming off a 4-6 record, 2-5 in the Century Conference. Brownsville 2-8 record, 1-6. So again, two teams that were near the bottom, but hoping to look up. And I think this is a Brownsville team. We talk about them a lot in high school Roundup. This is a team that's slowly progressing to getting better and better each season. I mean, 2-8 record. A couple seasons ago, they weren't winning any games in the season. So this is a Brownsville team heading in the right direction. Right,
and with bringing in the new coach, you know, you kind of bring this new system in, and you get players that want to play for you. You know, that's what a high school coach is all about. You want the players to enjoy playing for you, you know, get their right mindset going into the season, and then maybe coming out of the season with a win or two.
Yeah, definitely.
Hopefully more.
Yeah, especially, and no lack of talent there at Brownsville either, because they, like you mentioned, baseball playing up in 3A and able to advance to winning the Whippeal. So just shows the kind of talent that Brownsville has. On to Week 1 now. Again, no game Week 1 next season. We'll be traveling to Ohio Dominican for Vulcan football coverage, so don't plan on seeing a high school game of the week that week for Week 1 of the season. But we will be back Week 2, and this is a surprise on the schedule this year. We'll be Millersburg at Upper Dauphin, and we have to get out east to, I believe, Kutztown for a Vulcan game, and Colin said, well, why not check out Millersburg Upper Dauphin? And that's what we'll be doing, our first District 3 game ever there between those two schools.
Right, and I was just about to say that if you aren't familiar with these two teams from watching High School Roundup, maybe a little bit more familiar with Millersburg because of last season with Colin when we did the hometown scoreboards. Maybe you're a little familiar with that. But if these two teams are new to you, this is the first time we're going out east for a high school game. It's going to be a lot of fun. This is a pretty big rivalry between the two teams.
Yeah, definitely. Upper Dauphin was able to get the win last season, 41-14. But again, Millersburg, kind of like Brownsville in our club bottom, and if you remember from our high school roundup, two teams, two out of the first 3 weeks here that are looking to improve. So it would definitely be cool to see. And it's going to be really cool to see us out east in an environment we're not used to, teams we're not used to. It's just showing with the power of technology, like we're live on YouTube right now, the ability for CUTV to really travel all across the state.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely exciting. And again, thank you to Colin. This is really all credit due to him here for finding this game and putting it. And thanks to Gary for being willing to, we're going to have a two shoots on that trip out to Kutztown. So it is going to be a busy weekend for us, only the second weekend of the school year. So on to Week 3 now. Talked a bit about Fraser, but it'll be Fraser at Charleroi for Week 3. This is a bit of a rivalry between these two schools. Again, Fraser was scheduled to play at Bentworth a couple years ago, unable to get that game in, but Charleroi is a team that we love watching, especially with the talent on that team. We have a guy that we have listed here that's coming back for Charleroi, and their quarterback in Gino Pellegrini is going to be a star next season.
Oh, absolutely. And, we weren't sure, what year he was. I think is he going into his junior year, or he was a junior?
I think he was a junior, going to be a senior this year.
Okay, so he's going to be a senior, and this is where, he has to get everything out on the field, really show his stuff. So he's going to lead the Charleroi team. I mean, it was a pretty big surprise last year. They did pretty well, and a lot is riding on Pellegrini's back to lead this Charleroi team into maybe a deep playoff run.
Yeah, definitely. And I was looking at their returning talent for Charleroi this year. They have their top rusher, top quarterback, and top receiver all coming back for this team. So a team that made the WPIAL playoffs last year, 2A playoffs, lost in the first round to Avonworth. But this is a team, again, got that experience in the playoffs, maybe looking to improve. And when you have one of the best quarterbacks in the WPIAL in Pellegrini, it makes your life a lot easier. But for Fraser, they're losing, kind of the opposite story, losing their top passer and their top 2 rushers from one season ago. So they'll be a team looking to bounce back. They also made the playoffs, losing in the first round as well. So kind of 2 evenly matched teams when it comes to that aspect of it. But I think Charleroi coming off a 9-2 record, Fraser only 3-8. But 2 teams that are rivals, close in proximity to each other, should pay out for a well-contested game.
And, Fraser they had a pretty disappointing season. Like you said, a 3-8 record overall, 3-4 in their conference. So maybe you could see them lose a couple more games. They're losing these players. I don't know what kind of talent they have coming back, but you kind of see maybe Fraser falling off a little bit, and Charleroi coming in, excited for this season, especially a week 3 game.
Yep.
So
definitely will be cool. And another thing with Charleroi too, new coach Lance Getze is taking over the helm. They got rid of their last coach to Charleroi, but they're coming back with a new coach this season. That's kind of a trend you'll see with a couple teams on our schedule for this season. But again, back to last year quickly, Charleroi defeated Fraser 34-20 last year. So kind of a high-scoring game. So 2 teams used to playing against each other, and again, should be a great game.
Oh, absolutely. So it's going to be exciting. Jam-packed even first 3 weeks there.
Yeah, definitely. And going to see a lot of offense, I think, in this game, especially from Charleroi. Now moving on to week 4. And this is one of our top matchups of the season, I believe. In the last few years, we're going to have Washington at California. And Steve, this is going to be a big-time matchup. Great to see our hometown school here in California playing so well last season. Now they're going to be playing against one of the best teams in the WPIAL in Washington High.
Yeah, this Washington team, they came into the WPIAL finals against Steel Valley, who was a powerhouse just 2 years ago, winning the WPIALs, winning the states. And to beat them in the WPIALs, falling later on in the state playoffs, this would be such an impactful win for California if they could come in. California, first time in playoffs, and a long time last season. I got to cover that game, shoot some highlights for it, and they're a pretty strong team. And they have just as much motivation, if not more, to make a deeper playoff run this season, and going up against a powerhouse like Washington. This is probably going to be our best game that we cover all year. Yeah, definitely going to be some buzz, especially if these 2 teams come into this game undefeated. Definitely will be some buzz surrounding this game. Washington coming off a 13-1 record, 7-0 in the Century Conference. California coming off a 12-1 record, 7-0 in the Tri-County South. So both of these teams won last season. Again, you mentioned that they beat Steel Valley in the WPIAL championship. Did Washington fell to Wilmington, in the PIAA semifinals. So again, team that's used to winning. They're returning kind of the opposite of some teams we've talked about so far. They're returning their leading passer. He's only going to be a junior, is Zach Swartz, and their leading rusher as well, and Nick Welsh. So a team that we saw a lot of talent last season, returning a quarterback that threw for 2,000 yards and had 28 touchdowns. He's going to be a player to watch out for, as well as their safety from Washington, Daniel Walker. He actually has some offers from Cincinnati and Louisville among some other Division I schools. So very talented team. Yeah, if you look at Swartz there, 28 touchdowns in high school football, which is, relatively a running game. Yep. To have 28 touchdowns, I'm sure there was a few rushing touchdowns in there, but to get, let's say, more than 15 passing touchdowns in the high school game, especially in Pennsylvania, it's more of a running man's game. So that is impressive, and Washington are going to be tough again. Yeah, they are. We saw them last year against Beth Center.
in the last game for CUTV high school football last season. And for California, they're returning players. They're losing their quarterback, but they will have Jelani Stafford and Cochise Ryan. Stafford is a guy getting Division I offers as well. We saw him for real last season in the 2 games we had California, and he was an absolute beast.
Oh, yeah, I mean, you have a linebacker playing, basically kind of like a fullback role, but more, like a tailback,
The triple option offense that they have at California.
Yeah, exactly. It's this 1-2-3 punch that they put out on the field, and, I don't think Washington has really ever faced something like this.
It's definitely tough, and some teams you think about, Whippeal are kind of known for their triple option teams, and California is becoming one of those teams that run the triple option. So it's definitely tough to defend against. I played with the triple option in high school, and it was definitely tough for defenses to try to play against us. So definitely going to be awesome. And more of a speedster alongside Stafford is Cochise Ryan. And we saw him as a freshman. He's only going to be a junior this year, and he's definitely got some talent and some speed to kind of get it on the outside with that 1-2 punch there with Stafford on the inside.
Right, and Stafford, he's a big boy. You talk about speed, Cochise Ryan, he goes out wide. But Jelani Stafford, when he goes right up the middle, when he's a north-south runner, if he gets open space, the guy is fast. He's fast for his size. So when you have that much power and that much speed for a running back, I mean, it's tough to keep up with. Yeah, well, really the big question for California is, can they get a quarterback to replace what they lost from one season ago? That'll be the one question, but it should be a great game. Definitely some buzz surrounding that one. Great that we could get that one on our schedule for this season. Now on to week 5 of the high school football game of the week schedule. It's Greensburg-Salem at Bell Vernon. And Bell Vernon was our PCN game of the week one season ago. This should also be a pretty good game against the Greensburg-Salem team coming off a 500 conference record. And it's always nice to have Bell Vernon on our schedule. Oh, yeah. I mean, they've been one of the top teams alongside of West Mifflin, Thomas Jefferson, Ringgold in that conference. I mean, that's the best conference that we cover for CUTV. And for Bell Vernon to perform year in and year out, posting a 10-1 record last season, it's great to go back there. It's a lot of fun to cover them. Just the football that they play is unbelievable. The gold turf as well is awesome to see on TV. But also, Greensburg-Salem, we mentioned they had a 4-4 conference record. They're returning their second leading rusher in Aaron Putt. They finished their season with a win over Uniontown last year. Didn't make the playoffs, one of the first teams that we've had so far that did not make the Whippeal playoffs last season, but they're looking to improve this year. Bell Vernon, a team that's returning some key players, returning their quarterback and Jared Hartman and Mason Pasco, their running back. So returning 2 of their players from their 1-2 punch that they had. Again, they fell to Thomas Jefferson in the Whippeal semifinals. They defeated them earlier in the season, and that's got to be one of the first times they defeated TJ in quite some time. So this is a Bell Vernon team going to be hungry to try to make a playoff run again next year. So definitely should be a good game in the middle of the season. This is kind of a game that Bell Vernon doesn't want to be caught off guard by this Greensburg-Salem team. Right, and Bell Vernon, they can easily go into this game not knowing, a lot about Greensburg-Salem, kind of getting into this mentality that it's going to be an easy win, but it never really is. We've been, I know you were kind of new to, Whippeal football, but it's unpredictable. It really is. You never know. Just with Bell Vernon beating TJ last year, that's one of those games where you just don't see coming, and Greensburg-Salem can easily slip into this game and come out with a win against Bell Vernon if Bell Vernon doesn't come into that game with the right mindset, with the right win mentality. Definitely. And I think this is right around the time they played Thomas Jefferson, so that it's going to be a game where they're going to be kind of thinking about that TJ game, and it may catch them off guard. But should be a great matchup nonetheless. Now on to week 6. Another new team here. We have North Catholic at Elizabeth Ford. North Catholic, always known for their talent. Interesting to see who they bring in this year. But I believe the last time, talking with Gary here, the last time we've had North Catholic was maybe in 1997 in the Whippeal semifinals against Brownsville. So quite some time that North Catholic's been on CUTV, but great to have them on against another talented team in Elizabeth Forward. Right, you talk about Elizabeth Forward. This is a team that has been shaky, winning games that they're considered the underdog in, losing games that we consider them to win, but coming in against a powerhouse of North Catholic. Rocco coming in, their quarterback, Zach Rocco, 2,250 passing yards, 30 passing touchdowns, and 41 total. That's going to be 41 total. That's going to be tough to keep up with if you're Elizabeth Forward, who doesn't play the most consistent football. So
yeah, definitely. That's going to be a star-studded North Catholic team. I was looking at some of their players on that team. Yeah. They have some on their Twitter page. They update every time a school comes and visits, and they were just week in and week out having top Division I teams coming in and visiting some of their players. I saw Michigan on there, Ohio State, Penn State. So this is going to be a very talented North Catholic team, and they're moving up into the 3A football. So they'll be playing against Elizabeth Forward. They lost to Washington, did North Catholic last season in the 2A semifinals, 19-14. So that shows just against a tough team like Washington, they played right with them. So Elizabeth Forward, they're returning their quarterback, Zach Benedict. We saw him last season. He had quite the season as well, 1,300 yards, 19 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions. So he takes care of the ball. And against a team like North Catholic, it'll be very important to take care of the football.
Oh yeah, it's going to be a quarterback's battle. Coming into this game, a lot of quarterbacks gunning them down the field. It's going to be a good game, but sometimes that Elizabeth Forward team, they could be shaky. And going in against a North Catholic team, maybe they can pull like an Elizabeth Forward upset, because they are definitely considered the underdogs in this game. It's going to be a good one because, like I said, it's our first time covering North Catholic, first time for CUTV in a while. So, I don't know what Elizabeth Forward is going to do to prepare themselves for this game.
It's going to be another game that there's kind of going to be a buzz around, especially if Elizabeth Forward starts out like a season that we saw last year. 2 teams, again, that made the playoffs. Great to have these games where both teams the previous season made the playoffs. Not too often we get that here in Southwest PA in most of our conferences. So great to see the talent in Southwest PA is improving. Elizabeth Forward is going to be a team that can compete with this North Catholic team. And again, like you mentioned, a team that kind of upsets some teams sometimes. So North Catholic better keep their eye out for this with the Elizabeth Forward team. They're going to be coming to this game hungry. You have to know that.
Yeah, can't take them lightly. You never can.
No, you can't. Now we're on to Week 7. We have Union at Carmichael's. Always great to get a game at Carmichael's in. This is going to be Union's first ever time on CUTV, so it'll be great to see kind of a team we've never seen before in Union play against the Carmichael's team that we get year in and year out.
Oh, yeah, and especially, going to Carmichael's. It's a great stadium. I love going there. It's a great atmosphere. I love covering games there. So, again, another team that we're not very familiar with. First time they've been on CUTV, the first time that we're covering them. So we don't know much about them. It's going to be fun covering them. We know what Carmichael's have, so we could be looking at a pretty intense game.
Yeah, we had Carmichael's last season against Monessen. They were able to get the win in that one. Both of these teams did make the WPIAL playoffs last year, made it to the quarterfinals. Union is losing their top passer and rusher from last season, so it'll be interesting to see how they are able to fill the void left by those players. And Carmichael's returning their quarterback, Kevin Kelly, but losing their leading rusher. They're kind of a ground and pound kind of team, likes to keep it on the ground. So interesting to see who can take over that running back spot for Carmichael's.
Yeah, you have to go into that, next man up strategy. Who's going to step up for this position? There's going to be a couple people fighting for that spot, and of course you want to pick the best one, and to face Union will be a nice kind of test for them.
And Carmichael is one of those teams here in Southwest PA, kind of off on their own, no real bigger schools around them, so nice to see them having the season like they did last year, 6-1 in the Tri-County South, 8-3 overall. So that's a great season there for Carmichael as they look to improve on that. I was looking at the roster. They didn't have many seniors last year. The only seniors were really on the running back and as well as on the offensive line. So if they're able to fill those voids, could definitely be a team that we look to see improving from last year, maybe even making a deeper run in the playoffs. Now on to Week 8, and this is going to be another one of these games that has a buzz surrounding it late in the year. 2 rivals going out of here, West Mifflin at Ringgold. Steve, this is always great to have West Mifflin on the schedule, but when they're playing Ringgold, this is great football to see.
Yeah, these are 2 of those teams I mentioned in this conference that, you're paired up with the Bell Vernon and TJ, the other 2, pretty big teams in that conference. But West Mifflin, what a disappointment they were last season. Laurel Highlands is one game that really sticks out to me. Laurel Highlands upsetting West Mifflin, or was it really an upset? LH, pretty decent year. You might have heard of them. But West Mifflin, this is the first time that I think, in a couple years that we have been covering them, but posting a 5-5 record. We're looking at a team that, used to only have 1 or 2 losses in this conference. One most of the time coming from Thomas Jefferson.
Yep.
But you've seen West Mifflin steamroll Ringgold in the past. Ringgold, I think, might be the better team possibly in this game.
Yeah, but Ringgold as well had a disappointing season. They actually fired their coach, and big news coming. Steve, you want to tell us about the new coach coming in for Ringgold?
Yeah, this is huge for Ringgold. They hired Coach Zemanek from Aliquippa, who just recently got fired out of nowhere. That came as a big shock to all of WPIAL football.
Yep.
I mean, this is a coach that has put players in the NFL, basically.
Yep.
You know,
and just created a powerhouse at Aliquippa.
An absolute powerhouse. You know, a team that went up to 2A and even dominated there.
Yep.
You know, so it'll be interesting to see what he can bring to Ringgold's table. But this is a Ringgold team that in the past that have been a pretty decent football team, and bringing this guy in, I think he'd do a lot with them. So
and
maybe
it's a town that loves football.
Yeah.
Joe Montana is the biggest name you can think of in Southwest PA, and he is an alum there of Ringgold. So I think this Ringgold team, you have the best coach maybe in the WPIAL. He's right up there with Palco from West Allegheny. These are 2 of the best coaches in the WPIAL. And he is now a coach at Ringgold. You have to love that if you're Ringgold. Couldn't have brought in a better coach coming off a 3-6 season. That's really a failure there for Ringgold. So they're looking to improve. They have the right coach to do so. Playing against a tough West Mifflin team late in the year, he will have this team ready for this West Mifflin team. And you know they're going to be hungry this year. So this is going to be a great game late in the year to have on CUTV.
Yeah, you know, just mentioning those coaches, you know, you're putting them up, you know, with Coach Palco at West Allegheny, but you could put him up with Coach Turpek at Thomas Jefferson, even Coach Novak, who had just recently retired. The talent that he brought out of Woodland Hills. I mean, another guy that brought multiple NFL stars out of Woodland Hills. Same goes for this Coach Zemanek from Aliquippa. It's going to be interesting to see him in this conference now, going up against these teams.
Yeah, Coach Zemanek, he's going to improve your youth football as well, and that's really, I think,
that's where it
in a town like Ringgold, they love their baseball, they love their football. To have a coach that's going to be willing to develop talent at young ages, improves kids' lives. That's really what he did there in Aliquippa. Got kids out of Aliquippa to see the brighter future, and that's really what he can do there in Ringgold, in a town that's, if he's doing well, the town's going to give him anything that he wants there, support him fully. So cool to see in Southwestern PA, really a mix-up like that, because you wouldn't have really thought he would be going to a school like Ringgold, but that's where he ends up going. So he's going to have his rebuilding hat on and get to work there at Ringgold.
Yeah.
Now on to our last week of high school football here in the 32nd season. It's going to be Fraser. Again, Fraser, second time on the schedule here. They'll be at Best Center, and this is one of their biggest rivalries here in Southwest PA, especially in that Century Conference there between Fraser and Best Center.
Yeah, this is a rivalry that runs deep. It's one of the longest-lasting rivalries in WPIAL football. So one of the times that CUTV covered them, there was that brawl. Almost a brawl. It was a shoving match, really. Yep. You know, both teams coming out on the field. So there's a lot of bad blood in this matchup, and what a way to end the CUTV season than covering Fraser and Best Center. And
this is the Best Center team that made the playoffs last year. They lost there in the first round of the 2A playoffs, but they're returning their running back. I know we had lots of fun covering him last year. Dominic Fundy is returning for Best Center. So that's going to be a key addition for them. We've already talked a little bit about Fraser, but can Fraser slow down Fundy is going to be the question. And Fundy, one of the most talented players that we've seen come out of Best Center. So it will be cool to see him. He had 1,300 yards last season. It will be cool to see him against a Fraser team. Fraser kind of different than these teams we've seen. They're hard-nosed. They're traditional kind of football players. So that'll be a hard-nosed, kind of grind it out. You know it's going to be muddy there at Best Center. So going to be great high school football to see there in that matchup.
Yeah, taking it back. The last time we covered Beth Center and Fraser, it was I can't remember who actually came out and won that game, but I recall it was not the greatest football game that we covered. I think it ended up in a blowout between one of the two teams. So there's a lot of potential in this game, actually.
And two teams that may be fighting for playoff spots as well.
Yeah.
So that could even entice the matchup even further.
Right.
But that's it for the.
No, just Beth Center beat Fraser 20-7. That's what. Also, I didn't realize it was right on our notes there. But hopefully it doesn't end like that. Hopefully it's a little closer.
Yeah.
And Fraser, they have potential to put up a bigger fight.
Yeah, definitely. And it's going to be a fight. That's going to be our one game this season that both teams are going to come out, play hard against each other, fighting for playoff spots potentially, fighting to improve their playoff spots. Maybe Beth Center with bringing back a lot of talent could be hosting a playoff game potentially. So will be cool to see. But that's it for the high school football schedule review show. We're going to go back through, remind you of all the games. Again, week 0, we're going to have Bentworth at Brownsville. Should be a great game between two local schools. And week 1, again, no game week 1. We'll be traveling out east, to Ohio Dominican for that one. So we will have no coverage there from week 1. Week 2, we have Millersburg at Upper Dauphin, 2 District 3 teams that we have not seen before. So CUTV first for that one. Week 3, Fraser at Charleroi. Should be a great game featuring one of the top players in the WPIAL there in Pellegrini. Next is week 4, one of our highlights, Washington at California. Should be a big game here for the local community of California. Next is week 5, Greensburg-Salem at Bell Vernon on the gold turf there. Should be a great matchup as well. Next is week 6, North Catholic at Elizabeth Forward. And this is going to be a game featuring a lot of talent. Should be some coaches in attendance there to watch some players as well. Next is week 7, Union at Carmichael's. This is another game where it's going to be a first for Union. So any Union football fans out there get a taste of CUTV sports for the first time. And next is week 8, West Mifflin at Ringgold. Another one of those historic rivalries here in Southwest PA. And next is week 9, Fraser at Beth Center. That'll round out our schedule. And again, another hard-nosed rivalry. Steve, like we mentioned in the start of the shoot here, I think this is one of the most talent-heavy, best game schedule we've had here at CUTV in quite some time.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be, a lot of great games. We're lucky enough that the schedule's worked out. We're a busy bunch down here. So unfortunately, we were able to get these games, and there's a lot of talent, like you said, a lot of great games in store. And I can't wait. I can't wait for high school season, every year. But this one is going to be very special. Our last one,
it will be
at CUTV, unfortunately.
Yep. And another thing, you have to check out our high school roundup this year as well, because we're going to be recapping all of these games, even more games. We saw last year the talented groups like California. Like Washington, we got to talk about them. Like Bell Vernon, who had a undefeated regular season. So these are schools that we're going to be covering again in high school roundup. I know you're very involved. I look to be more involved now with high school roundup. So definitely a show for the fans out there. If you like high school football, we'll be talking lots of it on high school roundup.
And no West Virginia?
Maybe West Virginia roundup. We'll find out.
Because
WPIAL football, I've fell in love with it. I thought West Virginia was really one of the only places that communities gathered around football teams, but you definitely see it here in the WPIAL, especially in these local schools like Carmichael's. Maybe not be the best every season, but the whole community comes out to support their team. A place like Fraser as well, kind of in the back door of the Bell Vernons and the Elizabeth Fords, but they produce great crowds as well. So it's just great, a great Friday night football we'll have on our schedule this year.
Absolutely, I can't wait.
Can't wait as well. So thank you for watching. It's the 32nd season of CUTV High School Football Game of the Week. Remember to follow us on our social media to stay up to date with the schedule, with commercials coming out over the summer, as well as our Vulcan sports from Vulcan Football, Vulcan Soccer, Vulcan Volleyball will be broadcasting all the games next season. Home games next season. Excuse me. So stay on the lookout for all of our things CUTV. Great to have you over the summer, Steve. Nice to have you in. Not the work study this summer like you were last year, but great to have you in here on a hot Monday morning.
Yeah, it was great to be back and see everyone in a couple months.
Yeah, thank you to Gary. Thank you to Jeff. Thank you for everyone watching at home. Again, we are live on YouTube. Again, check you out week 0 for Bentworth at Brownsville. Thanks for watching, and remember to watch us for the 32nd season of high school football here on CUTV.